I met Chelsea 5 years ago at a Habitat for Humanity build. I was hammering roof panels, she was coordinating volunteers, and we connected over bad coffee and shared sunscreen. 3 years of dating, 1 year of marriage, and now this. I'm still processing everything that happened last weekend, but I need to get this off my chest. So Chelsea's 32nd birthday was Saturday. I spent 2 weeks planning this party, rented this nice lakeside house with a huge patio, invited all her friends, her family, got her favorite cake from that bakery across town that's impossible to get reservations for. I even hired her favorite local band to play. I wanted it to be perfect because things had been off lately. She'd been distant, always on her phone, working late with this guy Kenny from her office. I brushed it off as work stress. I was in the kitchen grabbing more ice when I heard Chelsea and her mom Arlene on the patio through the open window. They were talking low, but I could hear everything. Chelsea was saying she couldn't do this anymore, that I was pathetically average and like plain oatmeal with a pulse. Her exact words. Then she laughed and said she couldn't imagine having kids with me. Mini versions of his mediocrity crawling around. They both laughed at that. Her mom told her to stick to the plan and that they were moving fast, just 2 more months apparently. Then they started talking about my prenup. Her mom said it might as well be toilet paper because their lawyer found 8 loopholes and they were going to bleed me dry. I honestly felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I just stood there holding the ice bucket while Chelsea told her mom she'd already opened credit cards in my name and maxed out 3 of them. Then they talked about some plan with Kenny from her work to fake evidence that I was cheating. Her mom told her to practice crying for court because judges love tears. And Chelsea said she was already practicing and would sob during her birthday speech about how lucky she was to have such a wonderful husband. I don't know how I didn't drop that ice bucket or punch a wall. I just quietly put it down and walked to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, looked in the mirror and thought, who the hell did I marry? I went back out there and acted completely normal. When Chelsea gave her birthday speech, she actually cried, talking about how much she loved me and how I'd changed her life. Everyone was awing, and I just stood there smiling and clapping the hardest. It was surreal. That night, I couldn't sleep. Chelsea was snoring next to me like nothing was wrong while I was planning my next steps. First thing Sunday morning, I called my brother Greg. He's a family law attorney, thank God, and probably the only person I trust 100%. I drove to his place while Chelsea was at brunch with the girls and told him everything. Greg was livid, but also immediately practical. He told me not to confront Chelsea yet and help me make a list. Check credit reports. Sure enough, 3 new cards in my name I never applied for, contact credit card companies. Reported the fraud, got copies of all documentation. Document everything. Greg recorded me describing what I overheard while it was fresh. Start separate accounts. Moved half our joint savings to a new account. Legally allowed. Prenup review. Greg confirmed what they said about loopholes was BS, but we needed to be careful. Monday morning, I called in sick to work and went to the bank as soon as it opened. The manager was super helpful when I explained the situation, minus the cheating plot. I showed him the fraud reports I'd filed and he helped me freeze the joint accounts due to suspected fraudulent activity. I also got copies of all transactions for the past 6 months. When I got home, there was a package at the door from Amazon. Chelsea had ordered a voice recorder and something called Fake Text Message Generator Pro. I took pictures and brought it inside. By afternoon, I had downloaded all our phone records, bank statements, and started documenting every conversation. I even ordered a small voice recorder of my own. Different brand, not from Amazon. Then Chelsea called. I let it go to voicemail. She called 4 more times. Then the text started. Baby, where are you? Why aren't you answering? Did you freeze our accounts? The card was declined at lunch. Please call me. Baby, there's been a mistake. I need to explain something. I didn't answer any of them. By evening, my phone was blowing up. 45 messages, each more desperate than the last. Baby, please answer me. And it's not what you think. And I can explain everything. I was sitting in our living room in the dark when she finally came home. She burst through the door, mascara running down her face, looking panicked. She froze when she saw me. She started this whole dramatic speech about how her account must have been hacked, how she didn't understand what was happening with the bank, how she'd been worried sick about me all day. I just sat there. Then I said, the window was open, Chelsea. She looked confused for maybe 2 seconds before her face just crumpled. She knew exactly what I meant. She started backpedaling hard, claimed I misheard, that they were rehearsing lines for a play her mom was in, that they were talking about her ex, not me, that she'd been drinking and didn't mean it. I stood up and grabbed my keys, told her I'd recorded our conversation. I hadn't, but she didn't know that, and that I knew about the credit cards, about Kenny, about everything. Her face went white. She tried to block the door, crying and grabbing my arm, begging me not to leave. I gently but firmly moved her aside and walked out. As I was leaving, I turned and said, "You should call your mom. Tell her the plan needs to move faster. I'm staying at Greg's place now. Chelsea has called 87 times in the past 24 hours. I've blocked her number and her mom's. My brother is helping me build a case. We're documenting everything. I've contacted a forensic accountant friend of Greg's who's helping track all the financial fraud. Yesterday, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Kenny. Apparently, Chelsea is freaking out at work, telling everyone I've lost my mind. He wants to meet to explain his side. Greg says this is perfect. We can get him to admit the fake cheating plot. This is just the beginning. I'm taking her down, taking her mom down, and making sure they regret ever thinking I was just plain oatmeal with a pulse. Stay tuned for updates. This is far from over. Update 1. I've been staying at my brother Greg's place for the past week and a half, and shit has gotten wild. Like seriously, every day brings some new crazy development. So remember how I left things with me walking out after confronting Chelsea about overhearing her conversation with her mom? Well, I woke up the next morning to someone pounding on Greg's door at 7 a.m. I thought it might be Chelsea, but nope. It was her mother Arlene standing there looking like she was ready to breathe fire. Greg answered, thankfully, and she tried to push past him into the apartment. He blocked the doorway and told her she wasn't welcome inside. She started yelling about how I was emotionally unstable and misinterpreting everything, and that I needed to stop this childish behavior and come home. Greg, being the absolute legend he is, calmly told her that she was trespassing and needed to leave before he called the cops. She pointed her finger in his face and said something like she knew people who could make problems for both of us, and that Chelsea was devastated by my paranoid accusations. Then she slid this envelope under the door after Greg shut it in her face. It was a letter from some lawyer threatening me with defamation if I continued to spread malicious lies about Chelsea. LMAO, what lies? I literally just repeated what I heard. Meanwhile, Chelsea has been texting me from different numbers since I blocked her. One minute it's all apologies and crying emojis, the next it's threats about how I'll never work in this town again if I don't come home and fix this. She even showed up at my office yesterday. My coworkers had to escort her out when she started screaming in the lobby. The meeting with Kenny was interesting. Greg came with me. No way I was doing that alone. And we met at this coffee shop across town. Kenny looked nervous AF and kept checking his phone. He admitted that Chelsea had asked him to pretend they were having an affair, sending fake texts, taking photos together that looked suspicious, etc. He said she told him it was just to make me jealous at first, but then it got weird when she asked him to sign a statement saying he'd seen me being emotionally abusive. Kenny showed us the texts where she was basically coaching him on what to say. He's backing out now because he realized she's trying to set me up, not just make me jealous. He also mentioned Chelsea told him I had anger issues and was controlling, which is total BS. He seemed genuinely surprised when Greg and I were just normal, reasonable guys. Kenny agreed to provide a written statement about what really happened, which is huge for us. The most satisfying part of this week was reaching out to Chelsea's dad, Eduardo. They've been estranged for years. Now I understand why. He probably saw through Arlene's BS. I found him on Facebook and sent him a message explaining the situation. We met for beers 2 days ago, and he was not surprised. Apparently, Arlene pulled almost the exact same stunt with him. Manufactured evidence, maxed out credit cards, the works. She got half his business in the divorce and has been teaching Chelsea these tactics for years. Eduardo was so pissed when I played the recording of what I overheard that he immediately called Chelsea, put it on the speaker right there at the bar. She picked up all sweet and innocent until he started repeating her exact words back to her. The absolute silence on the other end was priceless. Then she started crying and saying she was forced to do it by her mom. Eduardo wasn't buying it and told her he was disappointed but not surprised before hanging up. The financial stuff is getting sorted. I filed fraud reports for all the credit cards opened in my name and got the charges reversed. The credit card companies have been surprisingly helpful once I showed them the evidence. One agent even said they've seen this exact scenario before in divorce setups. I went back to our apartment with Greg and 2 of his friends while Chelsea was at work to get my important stuff, documents, family heirlooms, electronics, etc. I left most of the furniture and stuff we bought together. I'm not petty. I just want my things and my money. While there, I found a notebook with Chelsea's handwriting that had an actual step-by-step timeline of their plan. It had dates and everything, including when she planned to file for divorce next month, and how much she expected to get from me, $250, 000 plus. There was even a list of things to hide from Kyle, including some expensive jewelry I bought her that she was planning to claim I never gave her. I took photos of every page before putting it back exactly where I found it. Greg nearly fell over when he saw it. Talk about a smoking gun. Yesterday, I got served with divorce papers. Chelsea is claiming I abandoned her and was emotionally abusive. The papers also include a request for temporary support while the divorce proceeds. She wants $5K a month. Her lawyer must be smoking something strong. Greg is helping me file a counter-petition with all our evidence. The recording, Kenny's statement, the credit card fraud documentation, photos of the notebook, everything. We're also filing for an emergency hearing about the credit card fraud. Greg says judges hate this kind of financial manipulation. I also found out why Chelsea suddenly thinks I'm so mediocre after 4 years together. Turns out her high school ex, Jude, recently moved back to town after making some money in real estate in California. They reconnected at her company holiday party 6 months ago, which I skipped because I had the flu. And according to Kenny, they've been having lunch together regularly since then. Kenny thinks Chelsea saw dollar signs and decided to upgrade from me to him, but needed to clean me out first to fund her new lifestyle. The most bizarre twist? Chelsea showed up at my parents' house last night crying to them about how I've changed and am being cruel to her. My mom, who has always been super nice to Chelsea, listened politely, then told her that if she didn't leave immediately, she'd show her exactly where I learned to stand up for myself. My dad just stood there with his arms crossed, looking disappointed. Chelsea left in tears. Arlene has now escalated to calling my workplace, claiming I'm having a mental health crisis and that they should be concerned. My boss pulled me aside today to check if everything was okay. I showed him some of the evidence, just enough to explain the situation without oversharing, and he was surprisingly supportive. He said they'd block her number from the office phones and alert security not to let either of them in the building. Tonight, I'm meeting with the forensic accountant to go through all our finances in detail. Greg says we're building an ironclad case, but I'm still anxious about what Chelsea and Arlene might try next. They clearly underestimated me and thought I'd just roll over. Now that they know I'm fighting back, they're getting desperate. I never thought I'd be that guy posting relationship drama on Reddit, but here we are. I still wake up some mornings thinking, this must be a nightmare. How do you go from planning a birthday party for someone to discovering they think you're plain oatmeal with a pulse and are plotting to destroy you? This is far from over. Chelsea and Arlene don't know what's coming next. I may be average in their eyes, but even average guys have limits. And they just found mine. Update 2. Hey everyone, it's been a hell of a couple weeks since my last update. I'm writing this from a hotel room because apparently my life couldn't get any more insane. Our condo building had a pipe burst and flooded 3 floors including our unit. Just perfect timing, right? Not Chelsea's fault, obviously, but it feels like the universe is determined to keep piling it on. So much has happened, I don't even know where to start. The meeting with the forensic accountant Greg recommended was eye-opening. This guy Tom spent 3 hours going through everything. Bank statements, credit card applications, investment accounts, the works. Turns out Chelsea didn't just open those 3 credit cards I knew about. She also took out a personal loan for $25,000 using our joint tax returns, borrowed $12,000 from our emergency fund, moved to her personal account, changed the beneficiary on my life insurance policy to her mother 2 months ago. That last one really messed with my head. Like, was she planning something even worse than divorce? Greg says it's actually common in these situations. Just another way to grab assets. But still, creepy AF. The most interesting part was when Tom found a series of Venmo payments from Chelsea to Kenny, the work guy, with notes like THX for helping and Photoshop payment, and even one that said divorce prep. When we showed these to Kenny, his face went white. He said he thought those were just jokes between them, but now he sees she was creating a paper trail to make it look like he was blackmailing her or something. Smart, but also completely twisted. Last Thursday, I had my first meeting with the divorce lawyer Greg recommended. She's this no-nonsense woman named Lena who apparently specializes in cases with financial fraud. When I showed her Chelsea's notebook with the step-by-step divorce plan, she actually laughed and said it was amateur hour. Apparently, Chelsea's plan had some major legal flaws that would never hold up in court. Lena took one look at our prenup and confirmed what I suspected. There aren't 8 loopholes like Arlene claimed. The prenup is actually pretty solid. The next day, Chelsea ambushed me in the parking lot at work. I was heading to my car when she pulled up and blocked me in with her Mazda. She got out looking like she hadn't slept in days and started this whole speech about how she'd made a terrible mistake and her mother had pressured her into everything. Said she'd break off contact with Arlene if I'd just come home and we could work things out. I just stood there listening until she finished. Then I asked her if she was recording our conversation. She was Saw her phone peeking out of her jacket pocket. She started crying for real then, saying she was desperate and didn't know what else to do. I told her all communication needed to go through our lawyers from now on, and I wasn't interested in reconciliation. She grabbed my arm as I tried to walk away, and I had to physically remove her hand. A coworker saw the whole thing, thank God, because Chelsea immediately started yelling that I'd hurt her. The wildest part of all this? Chelsea's lawyer quit yesterday. Greg got a call from the guy saying he was withdrawing from the case due to irreconcilable differences with the client. Translation, he saw our evidence and realized Chelsea was lying to him. Now she's scrambling to find new representation. Meanwhile, Arlene has gone nuclear. She's telling anyone who will listen that I'm abusive, unstable, and dangerous. She even contacted my sister in Phoenix trying to get dirt on me. My sister called me laughing because Arlene tried to convince her I had anger issues as a child. My sister told her that unless playing too much Nintendo counted as an anger issue, she had no idea what Arlene was talking about. The financial stuff is finally getting sorted. The credit card companies have removed the fraudulent charges, and I've filed a police report about the identity theft. I didn't want to, but Lena insisted we needed it for the divorce proceedings. I'm not pressing charges yet, but having the report on file strengthens our case. Yesterday, I got a weird text from Jude, Chelsea's high school ex she's apparently been seeing. He asked if we could meet to clear the air about some things Chelsea told him. Greg advised against meeting him alone, so we're getting coffee tomorrow with one of Greg's buddies tagging along as a witness. I'm curious what story Chelsea has been feeding this guy. The most satisfying development? Chelsea and Arlene are apparently fighting now. Eduardo, Chelsea's dad, has been keeping me updated since they still talk occasionally. Apparently, Arlene is pissed that Chelsea mishandled everything, and Chelsea is blaming her mom for pushing too hard too fast. They had a massive blowout at Arlene's house where neighbors actually called the cops because of the screaming. No arrests, but definitely some damaged relationships and a broken window. I decided to take Greg's advice and go nuclear with our evidence. We sent copies of Chelsea's notebook, the credit card fraud documentation, and Kenny's signed statement to Chelsea's new lawyer yesterday. Today, Lena got a call asking if we'd be open to a quick, quiet settlement. Ha! Not happening after what they tried to pull. One thing that's been weird is seeing the mask completely drop. For 4 years, I thought Chelsea was this kind, thoughtful person who loved the same things I did. Now I'm looking back at our relationship wondering if any of it was real. Did she always see me as a meal ticket? Was she laughing at plain oatmeal Kyle the whole time? Greg thinks she probably didn't start out that way, but her mom's influence in reconnecting with Jude changed things. Eduardo confirmed that Arlene has always been materialistic and taught Chelsea that marriage is basically a business transaction. He said that's why they divorced. He got tired of feeling like an ATM instead of a husband. The temporary hearing for the divorce is next week. Chelsea's asking for spousal support and exclusive use of our condo, which is currently uninhabitable anyway due to the flood, LOL. Lena says there's no way the judge will award her anything once we present our evidence. I've been staying with different friends to make it harder for Chelsea to find me. She's still trying to contact me constantly. Email, LinkedIn messages, even sent a letter to my parents' house. The latest tactic? She's telling mutual friends I'm having a breakdown and need intervention. Most of our friends aren't buying it, especially after I showed a few of them the receipts. Literally, credit card statements with her signature. Oh, and remember those credit cards she opened? She used them to buy designer stuff, bags, shoes, jewelry. I found the receipts when I was getting my things from the apartment. She was stashing them at her friend's place. The friend, who I always liked, actually texted me last week saying she had no idea what was going on and felt uncomfortable having Chelsea's divorce prep stockpile at her house. She sent me photos of everything, like about $15,000 worth of items still with tags on. More evidence for court. Next steps? The hearing next weekend. Then the meeting with Jude tomorrow. Lena is preparing to file additional motions about the financial fraud. I'm also looking at apartments since it looks like the condo repairs will take months. I never expected divorce to be easy, but I also never expected to discover my wife was basically running a long con on me. The crazy thing is, if she'd just asked for a divorce like a normal person, I would have been hurt but would have worked with her on a fair settlement. Instead, she and Arlene decided to try this elaborate scheme that's now blowing up in their faces. Everyone keeps asking if I'm okay. Honestly, some days yes, some days no. I'm angry and exhausted but also weirdly motivated. Every time I start feeling down, I remember plain oatmeal with a pulse, and it fuels me to keep fighting. One thing's for sure, by the time this is over, Chelsea and Arlene are going to realize they picked the wrong bowl of oatmeal to mess with. Final update. I know it's been a minute since my last update, almost 2 months, but things have been absolute chaos. like nuclear-level fallout chaos. I wanted to wait until everything was officially settled before posting again. And as of yesterday at 2:47 p.m., my divorce from Chelsea is finally legally done. So first, that meeting with Jude, Chelsea's high school ex she'd been seeing, turned out to be way more interesting than I expected. Greg came with me, and Jude showed up looking nervous as hell. Turns out Chelsea told him I was some controlling, abusive husband she was trapped with, and that I had gambling debts she was helping pay off. WTF? She'd been feeding him this whole victim narrative for months. The craziest part? Chelsea told Jude that our condo and most of our assets were actually hers from before the marriage, and that I was trying to take everything in the divorce. He'd been helping her financially because he thought she was this damsel in distress. When I showed him our property records and the credit card statements, with the cards she'd opened in my name, dude looked like he was gonna throw up. He'd given her almost $20,000 over the past 6 months. Jude pulled out his phone right there and showed us texts where Chelsea was planning to move in with him next month. Before our divorce was even close to final, there were messages about how they were going to renovate their condo, my condo, once I was out of the picture. The timestamps on some of these messages lined up exactly with dates she was sending me lovey anniversary texts last year. Just, wow. The temporary hearing for the divorce happened the next week, and it was wild. Chelsea showed up with a new lawyer, some young guy who clearly had no idea what he was walking into. She'd gone full victim mode, dressed super conservative, minimal makeup, even wore fake glasses. She started crying as soon as the judge asked her to state her name. Her lawyer requested temporary spousal support, exclusive use of our condo, still under repair from the flood, and temporary possession of our joint accounts, claiming she had no resources. Then Lena, my lawyer, dropped the bomb, presenting the credit card fraud evidence, the recordings, Kenny's statement, and screenshots of the notebook detailing their plan. The judge's face through all this was priceless. He went from sympathetic to Chelsea to completely stone-faced. When Lena presented the Venmo payments to Kenny with notes like divorce prep and Photoshop payment, Chelsea's lawyer actually turned to look at her with this DWTF expression. The judge denied all of Chelsea's requests and ordered her to provide a full accounting of all assets she'd moved or hidden. He also granted my request for exclusive use of the condo once repairs were complete and restricted Chelsea from accessing any of our joint accounts. On the way out, I overheard her lawyer telling her they needed to talk about disclosure requirements. Pretty sure he was pissed she hadn't been honest with him. 2 days after the hearing, the weirdest thing happened. Chelsea's mom, Arlene, showed up at Greg's apartment, where I was still staying, alone, asking to talk. Greg was at work, so it was just me. Against my better judgment, I let her in, but left the door open and recorded our conversation on my phone. Legal in our state with one-party consent. Arlene looked rough, like she hadn't slept in days. She sat down and did something I never expected. She apologized, said this whole thing had spiraled out of control and she wanted to minimize the damage. Then she offered me $50,000 to settle the divorce quickly and quietly. I laughed and told her the credit card fraud alone was worth more than that, not to mention the identity theft and the emotional damage. She got desperate, saying Chelsea had made mistakes, but didn't deserve to have her life ruined. I asked why she suddenly cared about ending things quietly, and that's when the truth came out. Arlene runs this fancy boutique home design business, and most of her clients are wealthy older women who love to gossip. Apparently, word about what she and Chelsea tried to pull had started spreading through her client circle. She'd already lost 3 major clients and was worried about her reputation. She literally said, "This divorce is becoming bad for business." The irony was just too much. I told her I'd consider a settlement, but only if Chelsea came clean about everything. Every account, every dollar, every lie. Arlene left looking defeated. An hour later, Chelsea called from a new number, begging to meet. I agreed to meet in a public coffee shop the next day. That meeting was intense. Chelsea showed up looking nothing like the polished, confident woman I married. She immediately started crying, saying Arlene had pushed her into everything, that she never wanted to hurt me, that she got caught up in her mom's materialistic values. She admitted the whole plan, how they'd decided I was financially underperforming compared to her expectations, how reconnecting with Jude made her think she could upgrade, and how Arlene convinced her they could extract enough money from me to give her a fresh start. When I asked about the plain oatmeal with a pulse comment, she actually looked ashamed and said Arlene came up with that phrase. She claimed she only repeated it to please her mom. Honestly, whether that's true or not doesn't really matter to me anymore. The most revealing part was when she admitted why she married me in the first place. Apparently, after several failed relationships with exciting guys who cheated on her or treated her badly, Arlene convinced her to find someone stable and reliable, me, who she could mold into what she wanted. The whole time she saw me as a project, not a partner. She actually said she thought she could help me reach my potential by pushing me to earn more and be more ambitious. When I didn't transform into the high-earning, status-seeking husband she wanted, they decided to cash out. I just sat there listening, feeling nothing but relief that I discovered all this before we had kids. When she finished, I told her I'd agree to a reasonable settlement if she provided complete financial transparency and dropped all her false claims. She agreed immediately. 2 weeks later, we had a settlement conference. Chelsea had come clean about everything, including the $12,000 she'd hidden at her friend's house and another account I didn't even know about with $9,000 she'd skimmed from our joint savings. The mediator was clearly disgusted with her actions but kept things professional. We settled on a clean break. No alimony, no ongoing financial ties. I kept the condo, my retirement accounts, and my car. She kept her personal accounts, minus what she'd stolen from me, which she had to repay, her car, and some furniture. The prenup actually held up pretty well once all her fraudulent claims were dismissed. The identity theft issue was trickier. The detective handling the case said I could press charges, but after talking with Greg, I decided to accept financial restitution instead. Chelsea had to pay back every dollar, plus the fees for fixing my credit and legal costs. Her parents ended up paying most of it to keep their daughter out of potential legal trouble. As for Arlene, her business is struggling. Eduardo, Chelsea's dad, told me she's lost almost half her clients in the past 2 months as word spread. Turns out the wealthy older women who were her client base don't appreciate someone who teaches her daughter to commit fraud and exploit her husband. Who knew? Kenny from Chelsea's work actually got promoted after she left the company. She quit after everything came out. He sent me a text last week thanking me for not dragging him further into the mess. Apparently, Chelsea had been manipulating him for months, using his crush on her to get him to help with her schemes. Jude and Chelsea broke up. Shocking, I know. After he realized she'd been lying to him too. He actually reached out to apologize for his part in everything, though he didn't know what was really going on. Seems like a decent guy who got manipulated just like I did. The condo repairs finished last month and I moved back in last week. It feels weird being there alone, but also peaceful. I'm slowly replacing the furniture and decorations to make it feel like my own space. First thing I did was throw out the stupid decorative pillows Chelsea had everywhere that served no actual purpose. As for me, I'm doing okay. Some days are harder than others. I still have moments where I get angry thinking about those 4 years with someone who saw me as plain oatmeal, to be tolerated until something better came along. But mostly I feel like I dodged a bullet. Imagine if I'd had kids with her then found out about all this. My parents and sister have been amazing through all of this. My dad actually drove 6 hours just to help me move back into the condo and install some new shelves. My mom keeps sending me care packages with homemade food and gift cards to restaurants, so I don't forget to eat real meals. Greg deserves a freaking medal. He put his own life on hold for 2 months to help me navigate this nightmare. I'm taking him and his girlfriend to a nice dinner next week as a small thank you. Without him, Chelsea and Arlene might have actually pulled off their plan. The funniest, or saddest, part of all this? Last week I found an old anniversary card from Chelsea where she wrote that I was everything she ever wanted, and that she was so lucky to have found such an amazing man. The whole time she was writing these things, she was seeing me as a disappointing placeholder. Makes you wonder how many other happy couples are living complete lies. So that's it. Divorce finalized, money repaid, condo reclaimed, life slowly getting back to normal. I'm not dating yet. Need some time to recalibrate my trust radar first. But I'm actually feeling optimistic about the future for the first time in months. And you know what? I've started to embrace the plain oatmeal thing. I changed my Wi-Fi network name to Plain Oatmeal and got myself a coffee mug with oatmeal with a pulse written on it. Might as well own it, right? Sometimes reliable, trustworthy, and drama-free is exactly what you need. Chelsea and Arlene can keep their schemes and manipulations. I'll take my boring, honest life any day. Thanks to everyone who followed this crazy journey and offered advice along the way. Never thought I'd be posting my divorce drama on Reddit, but here we are. Life is weird sometimes. Delicious, nutritious oatmeal out,